How do standard opening principles apply in the Dutch defense? Have you ever wondered how standard opening principles fit into the unique structure of the Dutch defense? Let's break it down together. The Dutch defense starts with the moves 1d for f5, where black immediately challenges white's control of the center. Instead of mirroring white's move, black takes an asymmetrical approach. This influences how we apply standard opening principles. First up is the control of the center. Standard principles emphasize controlling the center squares, like d4, d5, e4, and e5. In the Dutch defense, black contests the center indirectly by pushing the f-pawn to f5. This move aims to control the e4 square and prepare for a kingside attack. While black does not occupy the center with pawns on d5 or e5 right away, it is essential to support central control with pieces and pawns later on. Next, let's talk about the development of pieces. In the Dutch defense, black focuses on quick development, especially on the king side. For example, in the Leningrad variation, black often fianchettos the dark-squared bishop with moves like g6 and bg7. This setup reinforces control over the long diagonal and central squares. In other variations, such as the classical and Stonewall, black develops the bishop to e7 or d6, supporting the center with pawns on e6 and d5. Rapid development is vital to avoid falling behind, as the early f5 move can weaken black's kingside and delay central pawn occupation. Now let's consider king safety and castling. Standard principles advise castling early to protect the king. In the Dutch defense, black usually castles kingside. However, the early f-pawn move can create vulnerabilities along the e8 to h5 diagonal and the dark squares near the king. Therefore, black must be cautious and often uses piece placement and pawn structure to reinforce king safety. For instance, the Leningrad variation's fianchettoed bishop helps shield the king, while the Stonewall structure provides a solid defensive barrier. Another important aspect is pawn structure and space. The Dutch defense creates an imbalanced pawn structure, giving black space on the kingside due to the advanced f-pawn. This can enable black to launch a kingside attack, which is a key strategic goal. However, this structure also creates weaknesses that white can target, such as the e8 to h5 diagonal and the light squares around black's king. Black must balance aggression with solid positional play to maintain these structural advantages without creating weaknesses. Lastly, let's touch on flexibility and imbalance. Unlike many classical openings, the Dutch defense intentionally creates an imbalanced position. This aligns with the principle of seeking dynamic play and chances for counterattack. Black's early f5 move encourages aggressive plans, such as advancing the e-pawn later or preparing knight outposts on e4. These can be strong attacking squares near white's king. This dynamic approach can catch opponents off guard but requires precise knowledge of typical plans and traps. In practical terms, applying standard opening principles in the Dutch defense means prioritizing control of key central squares, especially e4, through pawn and piece placement rather than direct occupation. Developing pieces actively and harmoniously is essential, often focusing on kingside activity and supporting the advanced f-pawn. Ensuring king safety despite the weaknesses created by the early f5 move is critical. Using the pawn structure to gain space and prepare for a kingside attack while remaining aware of potential weaknesses is also important. Embracing the imbalanced nature of the position allows for dynamic chances rather than striving for symmetrical equality. Overall, the Dutch defense applies standard opening principles with a distinctive strategic flavor, making it both a challenging and rewarding choice for players who enjoy complex, attacking positions.